Welcome to the Greatness Does Not Need Approval podcast, where I am your host, James Epps Jr. And boy, do I have an exciting guest on for you today, Amilya Williams. But before we get into her impactful story, as always, I have a question for you, the audience. Do you know how great you are? Because you are great. So no matter if people doubt you, no matter if they don't believe in your dreams or your goals, no matter if they can't see your vision, always remember this: your greatness does not need anybody else's approval. Speaking of greatness, my guest, Amilya Williams. If you don't mind, introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Amilya Williams, and I am currently a senior at Eastern Connecticut State University.
Well, thank you, Amilya, for coming on the podcast. We're just going to start off by saying I met Amilya a while back at an Impact conference. And I'm telling you, this young lady left a great impression on me. And so I said, as soon as I started the podcast, I started writing down guests that I want to have on the podcast. And I want her to know, and I want you all to know, she was one of the first names that I wrote down because that's the kind of impact that she left on me. Now, I want to get to know a little bit more about Amilya, as I'm sure you want to get to know a little bit more about her. So let's start. Where did it all start? How was it growing up?
So growing up, I lived in a low-income neighborhood with my mother, who had me young. She had me at my age. I'm 21 right now. I grew up with her she put herself through community college. She was working behind a makeup counter, and I was just trying to do my best in school. That's what she really instilled in me, to just always put my best foot forward. And with her cheerleading, I feel like I just took on this persona, like I just want to be the best I can be. And I tried to, really, really reach out for all these opportunities. And that really happened when I got to college.
Okay, so growing up with your mother being such a great cheerleader for you, how did that help shape like the person you were growing up? So how was school? What was your classmates say about you, and how was school growing up, like in high school and middle school?
So growing up, I was the overachiever, the teacher's pet. And I would say in middle school, I struggled a little bit, if you can believe it, social anxiety. And it took me a while for me to come out of my shell, like really good academically, but socially, it was a struggle. I was really in my head a lot. And I feel like that is what led me to where I'm at today in terms of like my major and what I want to do career wise. And high school was just a chance for me to really start building on that. So I was in therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy for the social anxiety. And I was able to like use the tools that were taught to me in order to get to the person I am today.
So did you see that a lot in like when you go back and maybe you talk to other high school students or middle school students? Do you see that a lot in them? Do you see a lot of yourself? And do you find that happens a lot around you?
In terms of like the anxiety and like the feeling like, they're in their heads a lot, definitely. In my role, I'm actually able to go into middle schools and elementary schools and like work with our youth and kind of see where they're at and meet them where they're at and bring in, activities and things for them to do that, allows them to kind of reflect in a way that they don't think they're doing anything like super introspective, but they are.
Okay. So do you think like participating in like after school activities, do you think all that type of stuff help? Because did you participate in anything after school, or did you just I'm just going to focus on academics?
I did participate in after school programs. I would have loved to have something like what we do now. So right now I work at the Center for Community Engagement at Eastern. So we go into all these different aspects of the community. And, since we're talking about the after school programs, we bring in activities and like it's completely free to the students. We're bringing in all these activities where we get our own funding, and it's amazing. They get to meet college students. They're having like these role models. I did not have that when I was in middle school. It was kind of just like a staff member, and it was kind of more like a daycare type thing, just kind of like, here's something to do until your parents can come and pick you up. So it's nice to be able to give that to the students who, might otherwise not have that.
Do you think because of that, you think that makes you guys more relatable because you're closer to their age, And so I get it. Like sometimes you see somebody like, I know I may look young, but I'm getting a little older, but When you guys are like closer to that age, do you find like they are more receptive to what your advice or the things that you may say?
100%. And I feel like because we're so young, like they don't see us as closer to the staff members because, staff members are there. We're just kind of like that cool college kid. Like you kind of want to follow in our footsteps. They don't feel, I don't think they have this like authoritative view of us, which is nice, in some respects, but it's nice to have them be receptive to what we're saying and like having an open mind and not feeling like, this is lecturing. Like this is just me trying to connect with you and, pick your brain, like see what you're interested in and not interested in. I'm not here for discipline and any of that. I'm just here kind of as a role model. Whatever you need, that's what we're here for.
Do you ever feel like the pressure of that? Because you are really impacting the student, right? With your example, do you ever feel the pressure to be like a good role model or a good example, or almost the pressure to be perfect when you're around these students?
I feel like I do feel pressure, but not from the students. I feel like it's more internal. I feel like I really struggle with like that imposter syndrome sort of, I don't think the students put pressure on me, or I look at them and I'm like, oh, I hope I'm doing I'm doing a good job in their eyes. I'm just worried about me. Like, I hope I'm being the best that I can be. Like, that's what I'm worried about probably at the end of the day.
Oh, so you believe in that model is you against you every day. Like you just want to be a better you every day. And so you kind of not really worried about everybody else, but if you're a better you, that's all you can do, huh? Is that right? What you kind of, yeah, that's very cool. So you're a college student. All right, so let's talk about how did you get to Eastern Connecticut State University?
Well, all the, teacher's pet overachiever attitude, it got me here to where I don't have any student loan debt. So yeah. I definitely chose the school for the cost and like the location. I'm very close to home. I'm at a place where, I could be independent, but then I could still go home because I really love home. And I also heard that Eastern had a really great psychology department, and I knew that's what I was interested in. So hearing all these positive things about Eastern and being a part of a small campus, I knew that's what I wanted. And I applied to other schools, but I was like, it's Eastern. Like, that's where I'm going to be. I'm excited to be there. And now that I'm a senior, like every time I think about graduating, I want to cry. Like I genuinely have loved the experience, loved the people I've met, love the things that I've been a part of, like NAACP, the Center for Community Engagement. It's just a beautiful chapter that I'm sad to see close soon.
Okay, but big things are coming and we'll get into that. Like, what are you going to do in the future? But let's talk about something else that is very important. You are a first generation college student. All right, so let's give that a hand. Can you tell people what that means to be a first generation college student?
So it would mean, in terms of my first generation college student status, it's if neither of your parents have obtained a 4-year bachelor's degree. Coming into Eastern, I didn't consider myself a first generation college student because my mom did put herself through, she got her associates. So I never wanted to discredit her experiences. So whenever people would self-identify as first generation, I would never consider myself such. But I was actually given the opportunity to be a part of the Tri Alpha National Honor Society for first generation students. And they said, look, your parents didn't obtain their bachelor's, so you are technically a first generation college student. So it was kind of like a, not a surprise, but I didn't think that was me, but that really is an achievement, like you had said. And I don't know, I'm still kind of adjusting to it because I want to give people their flowers who their parents didn't pursue any type of higher education. I don't know, I feel really lucky to have my mom as a mentor through these things, despite not having gone through it, not obtaining a 4 years bachelor's degree, but she still was very involved in the process. And I'm just so lucky to have that. So as proud as I am to have the title, I still just want to acknowledge, the difference between me and other first generation college students. You might have frozen.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay. All right. So I can edit a lot of this stuff. So you said you still just wanted to acknowledge the fact that your mom did attend school. With the knowledge in that, she set the foundation for you as a college student because she did give you examples. She did help you to understand that education was important. And so with going back to that first generation college student, you're about to graduate. How does that feel?
It feels scary. I want to be excited, but genuinely, like, it's scary. I really like the community and the connections that I've built here. And I truly identify as a student, always learning. That's always what I've been good at and like have wanted to do. So for that to come to the end, it's like, what do I do now if I'm not a college student? Because I don't plan to go straight into grad school. So it's like, it's a little anxiety provoking.
Yeah, but you will be okay. All right. So like I said, I've seen you in action and you seem like the type of person you're going to figure it out. But before we get into that, and we're going to talk about like, let's relive the good times there. How has the college experience been so far? And what is the lessons that have stood out to you over your course of these last 3-4 years?
If you're sticking to the good times, I would say I've learned a lot about myself personally, like taking advantage of opportunities and really finding, my leadership role. I didn't think I really had that outside of like being a varsity, like sports captain. I didn't think that I possessed those qualities. So like being in my leadership role as a student leader for the Center of Community Engagement, people look up to me. People look to me for answers. The community that I work with, like they are dependent on me and my group of volunteers. And I would have never pictured myself, like high school Amilya would not have seen me doing this. Like my socially anxious self, I would not have pictured me in a leadership role, putting myself out there. I would have never thought that of me. And I'm so proud when I look back, taking these opportunities when they were given to me, because I could have, oh no. It's all about like being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, that's great. That's good. So what would you tell other, let's just say college students or future college students, let's say high schoolers who are like on the fence about going to college? What would you tell them like to kind of get them over the hump to say, no, you need to go to college?
I would say, I would first like acknowledge like the hesitancy, but I would let them know that there is so much on the other side of that hump. Like, going to college can open so many doors, not just academically, but professionally. I've had so many networking opportunities. I genuinely think it's worth it for people who have the means to go and really know what they want to do, or if they're still undecided, because it's a perfect way to, kind of figure that out for yourself. I've known plenty of people who come in thinking they want one thing and then they switch and do something else. So I say take the risk. I think it's genuinely worth it. And I don't think you'd be disappointed.
Okay. So you're telling them go to college, right? I always say, 4 years of military, 4 years of college. That's my stance. I believe they both prepare you greatly for life because you need those experiences. It's almost like it's time for you to grow up, right? So it gives you the experiences that you need to really grow up. I hate it when kids go straight from high school and they go straight into the workforce, because it doesn't give them an opportunity to kind of like those middle years to grow up, to really find who they are. Because I think you just go through so much in high school, right? Where peer pressure and everything affects you, like you say, those social anxieties. And then you go straight into the workforce and you don't really know who you are. You don't really even know what you want. So how did you get to the point to where you like, I'm sure this is what I want to do? When did that click in your head? Like, this is what I want.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of had this written into my story since kindergarten. I went to a school where they offered a scholarship at the end. So it's like, if you stayed, with that school, like I've had the same guidance counselors. I went through like K through 12 school. So I've had the same guidance counselors. It was an inner city school. So they were really pushing college heavy. They really wanted to send that message across that you are capable of going to college, and like, it doesn't matter what's said about you. It doesn't matter about your financial, social economic status. You are capable of going to college, and we are going to get you there. And so I've always known that this is what I wanted to do. As far as like career wise, that was always, you don't really think about that in kindergarten, like what they're pushing, but I knew that higher education was in my future. And I'm just so thankful for those guidance counselors and the Say Yes to Education program that was really pushing all of us towards the end goal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because right now, when there's kind of like an attack on all these nonprofits and stuff that contribute to the to like students like yourself, like that's kind of scary that maybe these students won't receive the help that they need. And you can be a part of a great story that, yeah, this is why this stuff is needed. Going back to college, early on in college, you face a little bit of adversity and you experience something that led to you self-medicating. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. So my freshman year of college, how like graphic can we be?
You're telling your story. We just asked not to use profanity.
So, my freshman year of college, I was sexually assaulted on campus, and it was by a friend of a friend, really just like a friend. I had never engaged in sexual activity before, so it was really a dark thing to go through, and it took many years to like unpack and like go through. And even, as a senior, all these years later, there's still, some pieces of that linger. But basically, I was taken advantage of by someone I trusted. And then on top of that, I was dealing with some betrayal from a long-term friendship that I had brought into college. So basically, when I told my story and was like, hey, this person that we're mutuals with, he sexually assaulted me, she kind of just victim blamed me. And that was that chapter closed, and like they were friends. So that was a lot for, 18, 19-year-old me. Like, one, the assault, and two, the, victim blaming, the betrayal, the lack of support. It was a really dark time for me.
Well, I want you to know that I'm sorry for that. And I want you to know that you're not alone. I myself am a survivor of sexual assault at a very young age. And it's something that happens all too often in college and in the military. I was a uniform victim advocate for the military for almost 13 years of my career because of things like this. And it's stuff like people don't take seriously enough. And you're so correct that when you tell people a lot of times you are blamed as a victim, and they make every reason or excuse to excuse the person who should actually be the person that should be looked at negatively. So I want you to know that you're not alone. And I'm just happy that you were able to still stand here with a smile on your face and still do all the great things that you are doing. And so that led you to like using, like heavily medicating yourself. And when did you realize that that was an issue? Because I understand students go to college, right? And they may go and try stuff that they wouldn't normally try at home, right? Right. All right. So when did you realize, like, okay, this is not something that's going to be good for me long term?
I realized it was a problem when that was the only way for me to feel okay and not lash out at the people closest to me. So I had really strong PTSD symptoms, like the anger and all the depression, anxiety. I was not myself, and it was honestly terrifying. I didn't know if I would ever return back to this like baseline that I'm at today. I would lash out at my mother. I would lash out at my fiance. And the only way I could not do that was to self-medicate. So as soon as it wore off, I was just doing it again. I was like, it's better than, being this awful person, or it's better than, not wanting to live. So that's when I knew it was a problem. I was like, I have the means and the support system to have much better coping mechanisms. So I'm going to utilize that. Like, I don't need to go down this path. Like, if I can nip it in the bud right now, like, that's what I'm going to do.
What, did you ever get like therapy for what happened? Just kind of backing up. Did you ever get therapy for what happened? And did you like talk to, like, did you feel like you had an inner circle that you could talk to about what happened to you?
I'm very fortunate that, I was in therapy after the assault. I was actually lucky enough to have that same therapist that helped me with my social anxiety disorder in high school. So I had, breaks like on and off, but always still that same licensed clinical social worker to help me. And it was even through that therapy where I was still struggling with the self-medication. It was a lot, and it took a lot of intervention, really.
Without you like kind of reliving it too much, why didn't you report that person? Did you report that person to the authorities, or is just like, I just want to leave it alone? Because I think this is something very important for people to understand. Like I told people, like what happened to me when I was 6 years old. I didn't tell my mother until I got out of the military. and I was starting to speak about it. So I was already 40 by then. You hear what I'm saying? So it's something that we hold inside a lot. So why didn't you like report it to like the authorities, or did you report it to the authorities?
It definitely took me some time, but I did end up, reporting it and I guess getting like some justice. Immediately after, I went months thinking that it was genuinely my fault. I thought that I had betrayed my friend. I thought that I had like gone behind someone's back. It wasn't so much an attack on my body, but it's like something that I should have stopped. I shouldn't have engaged in, where it's like, you cannot give consent when you're sleeping. That's no question. And I know that now, thankfully, but I didn't call it what it was. I would have these instances where male friends, like if I was in a similar situation, like we're laying down, I would freak out. Like I would have these like bodily sensations where like I'm freezing, I'm tingling. I'm like, what is this? Like it's something. Like I can't just ignore it. Like this has happened too many times. And that's when I brought it to the attention of my therapist. And she was like, I was like, I think I know why. And she was like, okay, well, tell me why. And she was like, whoa, that is a big T trauma. I was like, my gosh, like, what do you mean? Like, I basically opened a box. I was like, no, put it back in. Like, I wasn't ready. So it went from me not even realizing to me now realizing what it is. And now it's like, oh my gosh, yes, okay. So after like, dealing with it and like calling it what it was, I realized like I can actually do something about it. Like I'm still here. This person's still on campus. Like I can get justice if I want it. I was just reluctant because, victim blaming and people not understanding, if that happened, then why were you like friends with that person for so long? Or like, why, like, I was scared of like backlash, I guess. And I didn't want to be judged because going through what I had went through on top of the betrayal and then on top of that to be judged, like it's not enticing at all. But when I did finally make a report, I made a report and that was like not even pursuing any sort of investigation. This is with the school, by the way, not like local authorities, with the Title IX at Eastern. So I made a report and she was like, there's no statutes of limitations. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can come back and report it. And hearing that was like amazing because I didn't have to go through everything right then and there. Like I can do this when I want to or not at all. So after being given that opportunity a year later, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like being silent and like holding on to this person's dirty laundry. I can't. I feel like that was the next step for me when it came to healing. Like, calling out this person, reading my victim impact statement. I got to tell this person, like, you've caused me a lot of, I think it was like a 7-page, 16-minute, like, a lot of, this is what you did to impact my life. And you need to know, like, I don't think you realize what you have done. And it just felt so good to call him out and then also get what I needed. So my sophomore year, I was very sheltered because of the PTSD. Anybody that looked like him, or if I saw these people on campus, it was an immediate, like a freeze. And it was just very uncomfortable. So of course, I just wanted to avoid all those negative experiences. So I got it to a point where I did an informal resolution. So basically, you can't come to any of these classroom buildings. You can't show up to my job. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to the places where I can be because I deserve to move about campus freely without the fear of, running into you. So yeah, I basically got that. I got the payments for the therapies, the antidepressants I was prescribed, everything that was his wrongdoing. It's like, you got to be accountable for that. So.
Well, I applaud you for taking the steps and taking your power back, because I think that's what happens is we let those people, for what they did, take our power. And so I applaud you for taking those steps to take your power back, because that is a difficult time. And I didn't want to, just go down that trail too long. But I think people need to hear like what happens when you're on the other side of that. Because people, you see these people in the news with these celebrities and they get caught doing what they're doing. And people make all kind of excuses for what they did and say they're lying but they don't see the other side of what the victim goes through and the victim has to live with on a daily basis. So thank you for sharing that. And so it caused you to have the issue back to the heavily, like the medication, right? So it caused you to have an issue with what type of drugs were you using?
So I was using marijuana like constantly, like, and I was underage, so it was illegal for me, even though it's legal in my state. So as soon as the high wore off, I would just be high again. And that was not my normal.
And so would you be high like at school, like during like classes and everything, or you just would be like high like before that?
This was during the summer, so I would just be high throughout all the days, like being out in public. Whereas before it was like, oh, recreational, like this is cute. You have a little snack, you have a little giggle, you go to bed. And it wasn't like that anymore. Now it's I'm miserable, and this is the only way to not feel miserable. So it was just all day long. And I was like, yeah, this isn't what I want for myself.
Yeah. And you were still able to go through school, and this is amazing, right? For everything that you just did, you were still able to go through school and you're about to graduate. But can you share like what was the defining moment in like your recovery that shaped your perspective on like mental health and the advocacy?
I feel like the defining moment would probably be getting involved with, it's called CCAR, the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery. Like you were saying, like I was able to accomplish all these things. It was with the help with that organization. So I'm lucky enough to where through my job, I was able to get connected with CCAR and, find the recovery community, find people who just give you, like pour so much support into you, and you get to hear other people's stories. That is something I knew. I was like, this is something, like this is really something. And I urge anyone who, has struggles with addiction or has family members who are affected by someone else's addiction, find those communities, because it has changed my life for the better. And it's definitely something that, I don't know, I feel the need to plug. I loved it, or I'm still a part of it. I still love it so much. And I don't know. It's so beautiful.
Did you jump right into it, or did you kind of like, because I saw your other interview where you talked about like, you didn't really just like jump into it. You were kind of like from the outside looking in, like maybe I do have a problem.
Yes. I had to feel it out because I knew I wanted to be there, because I knew, like I said, I knew I had the problem, but it was like, do I identify with these people in the room? I felt like, they're using much harder substances for much longer periods of time. They've gone through much more turmoil, like, losing children, losing housing. So it's like, oh, like I'm reluctant to speak because I feel like, my experience isn't the same. And like, I might be judged, even though, it's a judgment-free zone. I was scared to put myself out there. And I was like, I don't know that, this is necessarily for me. No, I didn't jump right in. I listened. I got a feel for the place. I saw how supportive everyone was, no matter where people were in their journeys. And little by little, I would like share, and like just seeing how people were receptive to that. I was like, I do belong here. Like I belong here, and I deserve to reap the benefits of the recovery community.
Yeah, you did like most people. We minimize our problems, be like, oh, well, our problem is not as big as that person's problem. So do I really have a problem? But yes, we do have a problem, because those little things lead to big things. And glad for you. I'm happy for you that you found out early and you're like, nah, I need to kill this now. So, but now you do great work. All right. So what motivates you to pursue your career in psychology with a concentration in mental health counseling?
I feel like what pursues me is just seeing how much stigma there is with mental health, especially around, communities of people of color. I really want to be that representation in the field and work with those who may not have the access to mental health services, because I just feel like that would really better us as a society. And I grew up with my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. She struggled with addiction and bipolar disorder, and just seeing that mental health and how it impacts the family structure and like how it can essentially, send someone's life down the completely wrong path. I would just love to, be a part of someone's support network that helps them live a much healthier, happier life.
And so is that something that you're going to be passionate about? Is that where you're looking to like work in that field consistently? Is that what you're looking to do once you finish up?
I didn't think so. But then working with the community, I decided to pursue an internship, and then I pursued another internship, and I was like, hold on, like there's something here. Like I genuinely like working in this field, and like I feel like I'm very much liked here. I feel like I'm making a difference here. So I definitely want to pursue that after my undergraduate degree. I'm not sure if I will be in that field entirely, but I can definitely see me working with this population, especially because a lot of things are comorbid. So like you have depression, and then you also have, substance misuse and things like that. So
do you feel like, so do you feel like all your experiences from college, like everything that you've gone through, your leadership experience, the stuff that we've talked about at length, do you feel like that really prepared you to like, I can transition into this job and be really good at this job? Do you feel like that those experiences has made you like, I'm ready to do this, and this is what I want to do, this is my passion?
Exactly. Everything that I've been through, the hardship, the like opportunities given to me, it's gotten me to a point where I feel confident going out there and, advocating for mental health, being the voice for people who might not have it or might not have the means. And I'm so grateful for Eastern for that, for the education, for the opportunities. Even the turmoil, I think it's going to make me a better counselor when the time comes.
All right. So what advice would you give to people who are going through or starting the recovery journey in both aspects, for the sexual assault and as far as like the addiction? Because people have to understand, like, people don't just start like the person that lives under the bridge. They didn't just start there. It was something that sent them down that path to where that's where it is currently. So what advice would you give people who are starting that journey?
I would say it can be overwhelming. Like when you see where you're at, it may feel like the lowest of the low, but realizing that progress doesn't have to be so far away. It can just be in the little things that you do, like showing up for yourself, like just going to a meeting or talking to a friend. That's really what made the difference in my life. I didn't just go from sexual assault to the Title IX office. It was, telling a former resident assistant, like, hey, like, remember this person? And it was having that person be like, that's not okay. And that's what put that on my radar. So just opening up, like, little steps can lead to bigger in the future. So I would just say one step at a time, as cliche as it is, but it really makes a difference.
Well, thank you for sharing. I have one final question for you. Everything that you've gone through so far and all that you have done, like when you leave this earth, like 100 years from now, because I don't want you to go away too early. You got too much good work to do, right? 100 years from now, what is like your lasting legacy and impact that you want to leave with people?
I want people to remember me as someone who was willing to help, was always there if someone needed something. And like, I was willing to make a difference and hopefully inspire others and show them that they are capable as well, no matter what they've been through. Yeah, I just want to say that I've made a difference, say that I was helpful. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if that's like the best answer, but yeah.
No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. So at this time, is there anything else you want to leave with people? Like, is there any lasting words you want to tell people that for both the recovery aspect or just somebody who's struggling with a substance issue?
They matter. We're talking directly to the viewer. You matter. And I'm happy you're here. You deserve to be here. Because I remember, being in a space where I didn't want to continue. And I'm so, so thankful that I'm still here. So.
Don't do that. You almost made me emotional. I gotta stay focused. For real, I'm not, all right, like, people don't understand. I'm very emotional. You almost made me cry. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not right, Amilya. That was wrong. I really, I didn't know I needed to bring tissue to this. And so, as always, like I tell you, you are whatever you say you are. If you believe, therefore you are. And you are great. So thank you to my guest, Amilya. And I want to say thank you to my podcast listeners for listening. And as always, stay great. Peace.